Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, despite efforts by both the private and public sector, the rate of unemployment, especially amongst youth, still remain high. The National Bureau of Statistics put the unemployment rate at 23.1%, while underemployment is at 16.6% in their 2019 report. So today on the program, we will be looking at why these figures are so and what can be done in the coming year to reduce unemployment to the barest minimum. But before we begin, let's take you through some of the things that made the social media trends in the past week.
After the Christmas celebrations have come and gone, Tweeps have started planning for the year 2020, making their plans and wishes that they hope to achieve in the coming year. The federal government ordered the release of Colonel Sambo Dasuki and Omoyele Sowore. The duo remained in detention despite competent courts granting them bail.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. But joining us to look at the topic of the day, we have with us right here in the Lagos studio, Seun Ogunbure. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We also have joining us via Skype from Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, Mariam Loshi. Mariam, it's a pleasure to have you on the program as well.
I'm pleased to be here, thanks.
Great. We also have joining us from our Abuja studio via the virtual reality interface, Ben Cosmos. Ben, it's a pleasure to have you today on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, you're here with us in our Lagos studio, but let me come back to you to begin this conversation for us. You saw the trend. So much is going on in the country, but one topic that keeps ringing a bell is the issue of unemployment. Where are we with that?
Well, I'll start to define what unemployment means. Unemployment means inability to have a job for a sustained period of time. And unemployment is not an issue that is peculiar to Nigeria. It is a global issue. At the last discussion around Sustainable Development Goals, it was agreed that Sustainable Development Goal 8, the aim of that goal is to provide employment, to provide work for all, quality and productive. That's the summary of that goal. So what's it's happening is that globally, as at the current data, 5%, there's 5% level of unemployment globally. But between 2016 and today, Nigeria has a unemployment level that is pegged at 23.1%, which is massive, higher than the global expectation. Because according to the SDG, it says countries should actually improve their economies by 7% per annum, which is a way to bring down unemployment drastically.
Let me bring Mariam into this conversation. Mariam, so Seun has given us a bit of statistics, like a bit of a background, and as to what the situation is right now in the country. But let's look at how we can reduce that first and foremost. But before you even talk about that, what's the gender balance between or in these numbers?
Well, I've not seen enough numbers to talk about how many women in Nigeria are unemployed. But typically, as with every public space, women are usually not at the table. Perhaps in the civil service, there's a balance between men and women. But in the private sector and other spaces, it's a little harder to see women. But when you look at women, they tend to, especially in rural areas, they tend to do like petty trading or farming and stuff like that in areas where they're allowed to. But then we know that there are areas in Nigeria that women are not even allowed to work. And so that's a part of the problem when you have a huge chunk of the population unable to contribute to the economy in general by having a job or having a business, that adds to the issue.
All right, so how do we get past this?
Well, I think for me, because, it's one of those things that have been stated over and over again. Women need to be empowered, and women need to be encouraged to work. Workspaces need to be friendly for women. And these are some of the things that can support employment for women. And when they enter those spaces, we will have more people in the workforce and we'll have more businesses and such. For young people who are unemployed, that's another issue because there are no resources, there's no ease of doing business even if you're unable to get a job. So those are the things that tend to add to the issue.
All right, I'll come back to you, especially on the issue of the ease of doing business, as since we already have a document like that. But just hold it for a bit. Let me try and get Ben, who is right here with us, of course, in Lagos, through the virtual reality interface. Well, Ben, so one thing that has come up here is the fact that policies need to be put in place to ensure that, um, unemployment rates is brought down. But one of the issues that has also been raised is the fact that, well, it's not a fact. I mean, people say that Nigerian youths are pretty much, in some cases or in some instances, unemployable. Do you agree with that assertion?
I don't really agree with that totally. Though it could be, you could still have some element of truth in it, but you have to look at our environment, and you have to look at our infrastructures and how much is being budgeted for our education. And you could see the 2020 budget, how much was budgeted for education. And so these are the whole indices you have to look at. And if you're talking of people being employable, you have to also be able to fund your education, your institutions, and also be able to make create enabling environment for people to acquire these skills so that they can be employable. And if you don't have those things in place, you will have problem in the labor market. Secondly, you have to look at infrastructures in terms of power. And you look at over 140 million people, we are going between 5,000 to 4,000 megawatts. I don't even know the actual rate we go on now. So this is a huge problem for us. If you don't have power, there is no way the small scale business or other businesses can even thrive. The cost of doing business also, you have to look at it. I mean, let me give you, for example, you look at these artisans like welders who need, huge chunk of power to do their work. When they don't have power, what do you think they will do? They will run out of business. Some of them will even fold up. So, and this is really contributing to the high rate of unemployment we have. If we can fix our power alone will also boost the employment opportunity, because a lot of people in Nigeria will be able to, on their own, create jobs. A lot of companies have folded because of they can't really meet up with funding their own power plant, funding diesel, buying fuels and the rest of it. So some of them will literally fold up and go to nearby countries like Ghana to set up their businesses. And when they do this, we are losing people, we are losing jobs every day. And so these are issues we need to look at. Infrastructure is key. And also corruption has become a major problem for us. If we cannot tackle this corruption from head to toe, we will continue to have problems. Corruption is, in fact, is the real architect of this whole problem. If you can remove corruption in our system and let the money we budgeted for education go straight to that sector, let the money we have for power go straight to that power, and let us see results. Let us have at least a country that can generate up to 35,000 megawatts of electricity. I think unemployment will drive down unemployment rate by 50%. And because you have small-scale investment coming up, and trust me, an average Nigerian...
That's very optimistic, Ben. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but 30 to 35,000, yes, it's doable. But hopefully, in the very near future to come.
Electricity.
Of course. But Sharon, so despite all these odds, some people have, been able to, tear, walls, bring down walls, break mountains to make streams flow. What exactly, are they doing differently?
Okay, I would start by saying that we have about 4 different types of unemployment. We have frictional unemployment that is as a result of skills mismatch. We have residual that is as a result of old age or disability that could be physical or mental. But the ones that are peculiar to Nigeria is the cyclical and structural. Cyclical is that the demand for goods and services as a result of purchasing power keeps going down. So it affects, like Ben mentioned, it makes businesses begin to fold up when people no longer demand for good because their purchasing power is being affected massively. Now, if we look at structural is as a result of when the skills people have, it's no longer in demand for the jobs available. So they also fall into the unemployment bracket. Now, I won't completely say that it's a complete result of people not having the right skills, because we have people who invest in themselves for skills that the government schools or the schools available did not provide. Some go as far as traveling abroad to get these skills, just to be able to do what? To compete in the market space. But then we find out that, like Miriam said, the ease of doing business for businesses that are coming up, it's crazy. And in my opinion, the average Nigerian is not lazy. The average Nigerian wants to work. And I'll give you an example of, for example, what the governor of Oyo State did recently with regards to ease of doing business and getting more people employed. Because whether we like it or not, more people are working or doing business in the unstructured environment, in the non-regulated environment. So what he did was he provided them shopping complexes with power, and they pay very meager sums of amount. One is to take people off the streets. So coming back to your question as regards, is it that people are not really equipped? Education is not positioning people for the 21st century jobs that are available.
So that will bring me to my next question. And Mariam, let me take you up on this. So I mean, we've seen quite a number of lists on what people need to do or need to be doing, as time goes by. I mean, as we're moving, more years are coming. Like, so the skills that people need to acquire, what they need to brush up, and also like new jobs, pretty much sounding very weird, but new job titles are coming up that would be the jobs that will come up, in the 21st. So what should people do? Because Seun made mention of people investing in themselves, even going abroad. How do we bring this thing locally for people here who can't even travel abroad, so that they can be a part of these skills and move along with everybody when, that shift is happening?
For me, one of the key ways to deal with that is through technology. First of all, in our universities, we don't even have access to up-to-date information and equipment for people to begin to learn some of these new skills that are required in like this era and in the future. But if we want to make this accessible to people, technology is the way. We have such a large number of people who are living in places where they do not even have access to the regular type of education others do. And so there needs to be an easy way which should be, brought to them instead of them having to go look for it. There are many ways now to help people learn without them having to be in actual classrooms. There can be hubs that are created within more rural areas or less urban areas than just Abuja and Lagos, or places where there are federal universities. When people can access these resources for learning through these hubs, which can be created in different places within Nigeria, it will make it more accessible for them. And if they can just have access to the internet within these hubs, I think that it will go a great way in allowing them to have access to things they can learn, whether it's through purposeful provision of this education in these hubs, or them just having access to internet and getting online courses that they can access for free.
Let me just hold you there again. Hold all of you guys. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We'll still have with us Seun Ogunbure right here in the Lagos studio and Mariam Loshi via Skype from Abuja, as well as Ben Cosmos right here with us in Lagos through the virtual reality interface. But Ben, so let me just again come to you. In terms of moving forward now, what do you think the government should do? I mean, we already have an ease of doing business document going around trying to help businesses, small businesses to have a free way of doing things. But what more can be done to ensure that the unemployed don't wait for people to employ them, but employ themselves and even employ others?
The government has started with the ease of doing business, but more need to be done, like I said earlier on. We must begin to, look at our infrastructures, the power infrastructures, and how people who are willing, because I know for sure that a lot of Nigerians are willing to do things differently, who will literally graduate from the university and start up their own businesses like the N-Power, which the government is doing. But I don't know how effective that program is. But if that program can be effectively monitored, done properly, I think it will go a whole long way in creating, making people become self-sufficient and create their own jobs. And it's another one way, but I don't know if they can really coordinate that program very well. Because one thing I notice about this country is orderliness. The lack of order is depriving us of so much. Because when you set things in order, you will increase the value of productivity you have. So if the government is able to set up good structures that will have competent people to manage it, even outside the normal convention of our institution, but we can have people who will literally take up these things, and you'll be able to create jobs for people a lot. And secondly, like I said, you can't do all these things without infrastructure. Like, let me give you for example, we have people who are into online business, online marketing, and sometimes you need to book online, put your home address. You could ask how many percentage of Nigeria, have a very good addressing system. It's a huge problem for us. So at the end of the day, even when someone makes, orders for your product to get it across to you, but because you don't have a very good addressing system whereby someone can come to your doorpost and deliver that product actually into your hands and you sign and collect it. So it becomes another problem. Infrastructure is key. And so we need to look at some of these things. It's a big problem for us. And so we need to begin to go down, do this thing, because every day by day, new technology is coming up. And you can see people are beginning to lose some of their job because of the presence of drone. I mean, you can see China was using drone to carry cover some of their live shows. And literally, if there was no drone, you have a cameraman, but where you have a drone, someone has lost his job. 1 or 2 persons has lost their job due to the presence of that drone. So these are issues that we need to look at. We need to, we need to face the reality.
Ben, that's not entirely true. I mean, if there's a drone, there's definitely a pilot piloting that drone. So a cameraman can actually, upgrade himself in piloting drones and, still retain his job. But there's just too many arguments to all of this. Of course, people just need to upgrade themselves along the line. But I'd like to say thank you, Ben, for joining us right here in Lagos through our virtual reality interface today on the program.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, well, so, I mean, Mariam, your closing thoughts on this. I know you made mention of other stuff that can be done, I mean, in terms of technology. So I want to take you up on the fact that pretty much internet is not as available as it should be, especially in the nooks and crannies of the country. So what should we be doing first and foremost, to ensure that the internet reaches those places so that people in those places can be able to upgrade themselves and give themselves the necessary skill, to be just to be in tune with the 21st century?
I think so. Definitely, it's one of those things that are required for going forward into the future. Internet should be, the UN has actually put out a document about having access to internet being a human right. So there's just so much information out there that even if you can't help people, they can help themselves with that. And so I think that I would really like to urge the government to think about really making internet more accessible for people all over Nigeria, because, for example, we can see what internet access has done in Yaba in Lagos, where there are so many technology savvy young people who are equipping themselves, and it has become a sort of hub for education and growth in terms of technological advancement, and that was just due to access to internet being easy for them. And so I believe that having access to internet is one of those things that once the government decides to prioritize and make sure it gets to people in different places, they can begin to help themselves. They can learn things that they previously wouldn't have had access to. And of course, like, they would still need loans for small businesses that are starting. They would still need to cancel out things like 50 naira charge on POS, because that makes business harder for business owners.
I think the CBN made clarifications over the 50 naira though, but it's a discussion for another day. But I'd just like to say thank you for being with us today on the program. Mariam Laushi, you joined us from Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital, via Skype.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So, I mean, all of these recommendations, the thing is, we've had so many recommendations in the past. Are you confident that recommendations, would be implemented quickly?
Well, the political class over the years has not shown the will to want to carry out recommendations. Nigeria is not a country that is lacking in ideas. We have people, very brilliant minds. They've made propositions. For example, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, if you look at the recommendations they make on that summit every time they meet, they are very powerful, and they are things that have capacity to bring down our unemployment numbers if the political will decides to go by those things and implement them. A country like Japan has the lowest unemployment rate at 2.1%. America has 3.6%. Serious governments that want to win election, the first thing they will do is they will provide jobs, because they know that they would use that as a cash point to everybody to say, look at the numbers before we came in, look at the numbers now.
No.
So the government, the political class especially, those who are in charge of implementing policies like the ease of doing business, like the small MSCME, SMEDAN, and all those agencies together, they need to come together and say that these are timelines and milestones for these things, and we must do them. There should be sanctions for not doing them.
Hopefully that will be put in place. But Seun Ogunbere, I have to say thank you again.
Thank you very
for
much
joining us on the program.
Yes, thank you.
We'll be back with the Molesview videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Please stay with us.
Still maintaining a spot in this week's most viewed videos, but in fifth place is the video of the invasion of a court to rearrest Omoyele Sowore by the DSS.
What is being proposed is a sheer waste.
It is followed by a new entrance in fourth. This is taken by that of a legal practitioner, Jiti Ogunye, describing as irresponsible the 37 billion naira renovation budget for the National Assembly.
It's quandamania, it's profligacy, it's irresponsibility.
The more liberal, the more tolerant the government is, the more confidence investors will have.
In third is renowned economist Bismarck Rwani, predicting the inflow of foreign direct investment after the federal government obeyed court orders and released Colonel Sambo Dasuki and Omoyele Sowore.
The government has to be a good example of obedience of the rule of law, because they set the law.
The bank robbery foiled by joint operatives of the DSS, police and army in Abuja comes in second.
What has happened is that they have
While the declaration by the CBN that customers should no longer pay the 15 naira stamp duty charge on POS transactions comes in as the most viewed video.
Stamp duty is not to be paid by individuals that are consuming the services, goods and services of the merchant. The merchants who are receiving the money are the ones that are supposed to pay.
Now, there you go. Those were the Molesview videos on our YouTube channel in the past week, and that's the show this week. Do remember to follow our social media handles for more engagements, as the conversation doesn't end here. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.